Today we're back with my Honda Civic Type R, and we're going to be reviewing a new set of ultra high performance all-season tires. This is the Falken Azenis FK460. It's meant to kind of do a little bit of everything well. Light snow, dry grip, wet traction. It's a pretty wide tire, 265/35 R18s. I have them mounted on my Braid Full Race FF wheels in 18 by 9.5 with a 50mm offset. So let's talk a little about these tires. They're pretty quiet, especially when compared to the stock Michelin Pilot Sport 4S's. And this is a slightly different size all season than I was running previously on these wheels. Before I was running a 265/40 R18, which is a slightly taller sidewall, about an inch larger in diameter than what the stock equivalent sizing would be. This is stock equivalent sizing with a 35 series sidewall. So about 25.4 inches in diameter. So it doesn't throw off my speedo, which is nice. We'll talk a little bit about what this normal sizing feels in comparison to the oversized tires that I was running before, which were a set of Continental DWS 06 Plus tires. So I haven't driven these in the snow just because it's spring here in Michigan finally. I've spent quite a bit of time with them in the wet, and they perform amazingly well, and they've got pretty good dry traction too. It's a nice, quiet, comfortable daily tire, but it also offers some pretty impressive grip and traction in the dry too. A little bit less steering feel maybe than the Continental DWS 06, but still, once it settles in, it just grips and rips. It has a 50,000 mile tread warranty. They weigh about 27 pounds a piece, which is pretty in line with all the other all seasons in this category. The only outlier was the Continental, which is extremely light for its size. The stock Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tires weigh 24 pounds a piece for comparison, and those are 19s. These tires also are one of the more affordable tires in this size, so $211 a piece, and in the category of ultra high performance all seasons, probably about the least expensive option. The Continentals are around 230 bucks. The Michelins are a little over $260 a piece. One thing that I do really like about these FK460s is just the sidewall lettering. It's kind of in this three-dimensional text. Both Azenis and Falken have this kind of cool effect in the sidewall, and the tread pattern isn't bad looking either. Nice wide blocks on the outside to give you good dry grip, and then you've got these grooves in the middle that widen as the tire wears so that you still retain good rain traction, and then we've got 4 big ribs here to evacuate water. Yeah, let's take this for a drive, see how it performs on the road. We've got a pretty dry, warm, sunny day here in southeast Michigan today, about 68, 69 degrees Fahrenheit. We'll test this out later on this year in the rain and in the colder months once fall comes around. But for now, let's get some initial impressions on these tires, and we will discuss from there. So a quick refresher on the Type R and where it sits right now. I've disabled the active dampers, the active sound control, and we also have rev match turned off. I love the car like this. It just feels awesome. Some first impressions on these tires. Initial thing I'm noticing, they're a little bit quieter on the road than the Continentals, and a whole lot quieter than the stock Michelin Pilot Sport 4S's. So a little bit less tread noise, a little bit less howl on the highway. Over bumps and potholes, they seem to transmit a little bit less noise into the cabin too. There is not a lot of sound insulation in the Civic Type R, so you definitely pick up on any extra tire noise that comes through the cabin, and it is nice to have a little bit of a quieter tire to run for daily use and all year round driving. While we don't have anyone behind us, let's do a quick braking test here. Turn off traction control. And there you go, there's 60. throw an entrance ramp at this, see how it performs at the limit. Grip is just nuts. Yeah, wow. It is a very capable tire. I think ultimately when you compare it to its competitors, it's just slightly less sharp than the Continentals and maybe not as fun to drive on as the Michelin Pilot Sport All Season 4, but it sacrifices some of that sharpness and immediacy in exchange for ride comfort and noise, a little bit less road noise. So as a more livable tire day to day, this might be a pretty good option. And if you want to save a little bit of money compared to the competitors, this might offer a slightly better snow traction than the Continentals too. The tread design is a bit more aggressive and has deeper grooves and more siping, I think. I wasn't terribly impressed with the DWS 06 Plus tire in the snow, and I have a feeling that this might perform just a little bit better. Again, can't confirm until I actually spend time and drive on it in the snow, but that's not going to happen for a while. Let's talk about how this 265/35 R18 compares to the 265/40 R18 sizing that I had on this Type R previously. The biggest difference is now I just have an accurate speedometer, and I really appreciate that. That is nice to have in this Type R. Before I was about 2.5 miles per hour higher in actual speed than what the speedo readout was telling me. Of course, because the 40 series sidewall is an inch larger tire in diameter, that's going to have more resistance to large impacts, deep potholes. It's going to feel a little bit more robust on the road over really rough terrain or rough sections of potholed roads like we have here in Michigan. Changing the size to these 265/35s has made the car feel a little bit faster because we have slightly shorter gearing now effectively with this normally sized tire for this Type R. So acceleration is a little bit more responsive and quick. This car feels a little bit quicker between gears now in that it's not trying to turn a larger diameter tire. So a bit of a difference there. Even though this is a heavier tire than the Continental was, I don't necessarily feel that extra weight just because the diameter is smaller. All-season tire, gosh, this category has just gotten so good, and this FK460 really puts down a lot of traction on power, under braking, hard cornering. It's pretty impressive what it can do. I'm having trouble exploring its limits here on the street. Another thing I've noticed with these FK460s, they seem to have kind of neutralized the car a little bit. So I'm seeing a lot less lift-off oversteer with this Type R now. The video footage speaks for itself with how much grip these things have. Rain and wet performance is phenomenal with these tires. I actually filmed a review a few weeks ago. It was cold, about 40 degrees Fahrenheit outside, pretty damp and wet out. except the footage got way overexposed for some reason and I couldn't post it. But the rain traction that these tires have is pretty amazing as well. It's a comfortable tire to live with on a daily basis. Very little road noise in this Civic Type R compared to the other tires that I've tested in this car. Pretty comfortable over bumps. They seem to do a nice job kind of smoothing over impacts, rougher sections of road. There's not a lot of transmission of noise into the cabin over potholes and expansion joints. That's really nice for a car like this that doesn't have a lot of sound insulation. Now I think downsizing to the 18s from the stock 19s would definitely result in improved ride quality. I might even recommend a 255/40 R18 for a little bit more sidewall and a slightly skinnier contact patch for winter snow driving and wet driving. But that said, this stock sizing equivalent in the 18s seems to feel pretty good on this car. There's no tram lining. There's just a little bit of torque steer, but it adds some driving excitement to the experience. Again, a little bit unfortunate that I wasn't able to get these in before winter ended, but I think these would probably do pretty well in the snow. Again, I think Ignition Tube, Eli from Ignition Tube, has some driving impressions in the snow on his Audi S4, RS4? I can't remember what he drove these on, but he said they did pretty well in the snow. Of course, these aren't going to be a replacement for a dedicated winter tire, but in the few days that I did get to drive this in cold, wet weather, they seem to perform pretty well. In other news, we've got a fresh oil change on this Type R, 5W30, for some track work this summer. Probably going to swap out to the Pilot Sport 4S's and get some track time in this car here soon. Alright, that's enough of that. That'll be a wrap for today's video. Thanks again for watching. Let me know if you guys have any questions in the comments, and stay tuned for the next one. We'll see you guys later.